Charles Perrault wrote, "It is of such singular beauty that there is no foreigner who will not see it as one of the most beautiful things in France." Looking for a perfect day trip from Paris? Yeah, I know you want to see a French chateau. Join us on a tour of the enchanting Château de Maisons-Laffitte. Less than an hour from Paris, this 17th century masterpiece offers a captivating experience without the crowds of Versailles. But in this video, you get to imagine walking through these halls with no one else in sight. Yeah, you heard that right. Our special tour was filmed behind closed doors, offering you an uninterrupted look at the inside of this chateau. But that's not all. Get ready for behind-the-scenes access to private quarters and secret rooms, including the very apartment where the great writer Voltaire fell gravely ill. Now let's go to a chateau. Can you imagine inheriting this? So before the chateau even existed, René Longueuil, he was the president of the Parliament of Paris, and he inherited 500 hectares of this amazing estate in 1629. In 1640, René entrusted the construction of this incredible chateau to Francois Mansart. Now, the Grand Staircase is a remarkable achievement of architectural brilliance created using a special technique, which was still relatively rare in France during the 1640s. This staircase is a true focal point of the chateau's decor, designed to elevate the grand experience. To enhance the dramatic effect, Mansart transformed the staircase from a square layout to an oval-shaped dome. The first two flights sort of rest solidly on a wall, while the last two seem to float above, resting delicately on a simple arch, giving them an ethereal quality. So the first level of the staircase is a bit understated, but as we reach the main landing, you're greeted by these lavish decorations crafted by Jacques Sarrazin in his workshop. The cherubs represent the arts, music, love, war, and peace, and they adorn this landing, inviting us into the world of creativity and elegance. This is the first time they've been filmed so close like this, using a special technique. I'm so excited to share them with you today. Oh, but get this. This is really crazy. So Francois' great nephew was actually Jules Mansart. He was the architect behind Versailles and Invalides. They actually think that this castle was a harbinger, the idea, some of the inspiration behind Chateau Versailles. Isn't this a beautiful room? So it's opulent. It's just stunning. And that was the intention. So King Louis VIII loved to hunt nearby, and René, he had a strategy. He knew what was going on, and so he decided he was going to build a chateau. This was actually a hunting lodge, a place for the boys to come and hang out, and he wanted to build it so sumptuous, so gorgeous, that the king would absolutely want to come here and stay. Isn't this room just so sumptuous? So Chateau Maisons-Laffitte soon became a favorite haunt for the royals. On a crisp October day in 1608, the young Dauphin, future King Louis XIII, visited Jean Longueuil for a delightful repast in the park. This was merely the prelude to many royal visits, as the king frequently graced the estate, captivated by its charm. The most illustrious of these visits occurred in 1651, when the young King Louis XIV, just 13 and freshly ascended to the throne, graced the chateau with his presence. René Longueuil, now a prominent figure in the king's court, received him with all the grandeur befitting a monarch. This marked the Château Maisons-Laffitte as a royal retreat of unmatched elegance. Can you imagine having a dance party here in this room? Up above, right up at the top there, are the orchestra and the musicians playing. This is where they held an enormous party. There was such a huge festival. And they did it in honor of Anne of Austria and her son, Louis XIV. And they came here to celebrate and inaugurate the castle, the chateau, because it was finally done. What a gift to spend time in this space completely empty. So this is called the noble floor, or the first floor, where the king's apartments unfold. It opens out onto this large reception room with painted decorations. The windows bathe the room in light, reflected by a vast panel of mirrors. What do you think? Is there any resemblance to the Hall of Mirrors at the Palace of Versailles? Yeah, that was totally intentional. The majesty of this room is amplified by its ceiling, a vault with 3 white domes, more than 7 meters high. A discreet musician's gallery, right there up above, recalls the use of the place, which serves in turn as a music room, a dance room, and reception room. We're going to visit that musician's gallery in just a little bit. As we step into this great hall, imagine the grandeur once displayed through very large tapestries that used to adorn the walls. Unfortunately, they were removed during the French Revolution, alongside the hall's iron grilles. But today, the windows are decorated with exquisite landscapes of Italy, commissioned from the talented painters Jean-Joseph Xavier Bidot and Jean-Victoire Bertin. I just love this space, and I love also that I had the opportunity to keep up high and close to the chandeliers and give you different perspectives of this room, never before seen. So we are here at the end of the ballroom, and the fireplace here is particularly noteworthy, featuring a medallion depicting King Louis XIII, surrounded by 2 captives, a tribute to his victories during the 30-Year War. This design is inspired by one of the bas-reliefs on the Trajan's column, cleverly replacing the Roman emperor's head with that of the French king. One of the highlights of visiting the king's apartment is this small, precious space intended for intimate, poetic, or musical evenings. This room is circular with walls surrounded by more than 160 mirrors, originally from Venice because only the Italians held the secret of their manufacture. The paneling is inlaid with the initials of the Marquis and his late wife, R for Renee and M for Madeline. Topped with a painted dome, the cabinet has one of the rare examples of inlaid parquet flooring still visible in a French chateau. With floral or geometric patterns, it is composed of around 100 different types of wood mixed with pewter, mother of pearl, bone, and even malachite. Okay, in 1804, the castle was sold, and it's sold to Marshal Jean Lane. Can you imagine being the sole proprietor of this amazing chateau? Isn't this room so pretty? This was the bedroom of Lane when he was living here, but he unfortunately did not live here for very long. His widow Louise took over this room, and she was the one who sold it to banker Jacques Lafitte. And that is where the name of the chateau comes today, is Maisons-Laffitte. This beautiful room is in the Queen's apartment, once opposite the King's suite. In 1804, a military man named Marshal Lane, who was close to Napoleon Bonaparte, acquired the chateau. Lane's appointed architect worked on the restoration and modernization of the chateau, mainly the right wing. Lane created a stud farm with 32 horses and took over the operation of the estate. After the death of Marshal during the Battle of Essling on May 31st, 1809, his widow, the Duchess of Montebello, managed to keep the estate until 1818, when she sold it to Jacques Lafitte. Even though Lafitte was a banker, he almost fell into bankruptcy. He ended up having to sell almost all of the land in order to save the castle. At that point, it went from hand to hand for a really long time until the state purchased the property in 1905. Next, let's venture into the dining room, once referred to as the apartment of fame. Today, it's known as the dining room of the Count Artois, reflecting the changes made to transform these spaces into dining areas. Historically, the antechamber of this apartment served as the site for many meals, thanks to its proximity to the kitchens, which are just down below, and its symbolic association with the owner's wife, marking the space as a representation of domestic life. We all love a good kitchen, so let's take a look around while I share a brief story about the last private owner of Maisons-Laffitte. His name was Wilhelm Gromet. Gromet was a Russian painter, art, and heritage lover. He was convinced that artists, better than anyone, are able to appreciate this masterpiece by Mansart. The jewel of his collection was Château Maisons-Laffitte. Gromet bequeathed his art collections to the city of Viborg, leaving the chateau to his heirs to sell the estate. In 1900, the succession of Wilhelm Gromet did not go as planned. The chateau was threatened with destruction by a property developer, leading the state to acquire it in 1905. Now, as promised, I take you to these secret spaces located upstairs behind lock and key. These spaces are not normally open to the public and by private tour only. And we had the exclusive opportunity to visit these rooms completely alone and uninterrupted. Let's go. First, hidden behind this door, let's visit the orchestra pit. Do you remember this from earlier in the video? As you step into the space, notice the cobblestone floors. This area is not very large and the banisters are low, giving you a slight sense of vertigo as you look out over the edge and into the ballroom. It's a little hidden nest above the majestic reception room. Can you imagine what it must have been like to be a musician playing for kings and queens? The beautiful gowns swaying under romantic classical music. Now let's journey to the enchanting Lafayette apartment, a space that bears the legacy of two remarkable figures in history. Initially occupied by our dear Francois Mansart, the esteemed architect responsible for the chateau's stunning design, this apartment also became a haven for the illustrious Gilbert du Motier de Lafayette, the French hero of the American Revolutionary War. Lafayette's commitment to liberty and equality resonates within these walls, and one can almost envision him sharing stories of his adventures across the ocean, rallying support for the cause of independence. The apartment retains its original paneling and decor, preserving the spirit of a time when discussions of democracy and revolution echoed within these very rows. And finally, we enter Voltaire's apartment, where we find ourselves stepping into a space steeped in intellectual fervor and the spirit of enlightenment. This unique room, distinguished by its absence of an antechamber, you step right in, and it features these little small office areas, inviting us to imagine the prolific writer at work. It was in 1723 that Voltaire, the renowned philosopher and playwright, sought refuge in Château Maisons-Laffitte. During this time, he was grappling with his thoughts on society, politics, human rights, passionately writing plays and philosophical essays that would challenge the norms of his day. Now, Voltaire became gravely ill during his stay, and he almost died here. Sadly, much of the original decor was lost in a devastating fire that occurred shortly after Voltaire's departure, leaving only the bare beams as a testament to his time here. Yet the energy of his genius still seems to echo in the air, as if the very walls were infused with the spirit of his groundbreaking ideas and sharp wit. Imagine Voltaire pacing this space, his mind a whirlwind of revolutionary thoughts, pen in hand, crafting words that would inspire generations to come. Today, Château de Maisons-Laffitte stands as a testament to the ebbs and flows of fortune, a beacon of beauty, history, and art. Managed by the Centre de Monuments National, or the National Monuments of France, it continues to enchant visitors, a living monument to the dreams and dramas of centuries past. By watching this video and visiting France's national monuments, you help ensure these legacies endure, captivating the hearts of all who enter. Thank you for joining me on this enchanting journey through Château Maisons-Laffitte. I'll include basic logistics and information in the description below. Now, YouTube is going to recommend a couple videos of mine that you might be interested in watching. Thank you so much for your support, and stay tuned for the next episode of Let's Go to a Chateau. Marshal Jean Lane in 1804. It's very Napoleon-esque, isn't it? So for the very first time, the castle is sold to Jean